Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
You have to play this.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay, we have to do a class.
Okay.
You're really good at singing.
Thank you.
जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोधनन्दना जय व्रजजनरञ्जना जय यशोधनन्दना जय व्रजजनरञ्जना जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुञ्जविहारी जय यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुञ्जविहारी जय राधमाधवा जय कुञ्जविहारी माधवा जय कुञ्जविहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जयो कृष्ण बलराम जय 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 जयो नित्य गौरंग जय 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 जय प्रभुपाद Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text number 13. Please repeat after me. Dehino asmin yata dehe. Dehino asmin yata dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tata dehantara praptir. Tata dehantara praptir. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dehino asmin yata dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tata dehantara praptir. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dehino asmin yata dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tata dehantara praptir. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dehino asmin yata dehe. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tata dehantara praptir. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. Word to word translation. Dehinaha, of the embodied. Asmin, in this. Yata, as. Dehe, in the body. Kaumaram, boyhood. Yavvanam, youth. Jara, old age. Tata, similarly. Dehantara, of transference of the body. Praptihi, achievement. Dhiraha, the sober. Tatra, thereupon. Na, never. Muhyati, is deluded. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Purport. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death. Neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona being noble souls, we're surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So, in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Arjuna, who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, sorry, I don't know why I read it as Arjuna. It's any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul, who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed become meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is forgetful soul, deluded by Maya. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Nirvishesha Shunyabadi Pasyat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. A very famous verse from the Gita. And Srila Prabhupada actually lectured on this verse, I think almost 7 or 8 times in different places in different years. There's a very interesting incident that happened, which is tied to this verse. You know, in the military, right, especially in the Air Force, right, Anybody here knows anybody who's in the Air Force or any connection with the Air Force? Somebody? You know somebody in the Air Force? Some relative? Your friend, yes. The Air Force selection process is a very complicated process from what I hear. Right? Because you're usually flying fighter jets. And these fighter jets are going greater than the speed of sound. Right? They reach Mach 2, Mach 3. And the G forces that you have to, when you're just diving deep and going up, the G forces your body has to face is very, very high. Something like G10 and all that. So what they do, during the selection process, they do a very rigorous checking of your body. Right? You can imagine these are young people in their 20s, right? Early 20s. And then they make you go through 10, 12 different kinds of tests. Physical test, this thing, eye test. They'll check whether, they'll put you in this thing and just spin you around. And see, most of us will throw up, and they'll see whether you're able to, maintain your sort of feeling of leveling and all that. So, in Russia, there was one camp that they were recruiting people, all young people, almost 100 of them. And they went through all these tests, and the first round, second round, third round, fourth round. By the time it was down to like 5 or 6 people. And they done all the tests that they had selected, these people. So the next day, they were supposed to take a decision on who they're going to select. So next day morning came. Suddenly they found out one of the participants in that group had died overnight. And they were shocked. So then they called the panel of doctors who were doing. And they were going through this person. They said, he's in perfect health. He passed all that. He was one of the few who was going to be selected. And then they were shocked. Then they said, let's go do a postmortem. Something is there. Right? Something we didn't see. Let's do a deep postmortem. Then we'll find out what was wrong. And they did a postmortem. They checked the heart. They checked this. They checked the brain. Is there any kind of a blockage in the brain? Nothing. Then the doctors concluded, this body is in perfect condition. All the chemicals that are needed are there. Everything is there. Then why this person is dead? What is missing? Right? Usually we think, something is wrong with the body. What is this? The heart is not working, they'll say, right? Oh, multiple organ failure. This is a very common thing they use now when elderly people especially. Multiple organ failure. We put them on heart-lung machine. Still they're not responding. And then, the person has died because all the machines have, different parts have failed. So what is the explanation here? Perfectly fit body. Everything is there. Everything is there. Right? So Prabhupada used to say, right? You're saying that no, something is wrong, that's why this. So here is a dead body. You put all the things that are wrong, missing, and bring them back to life. Can you do? Right? Now the Shastras say that the missing element, what is the missing element? The soul. Right? See, when you think of the soul and want to really internalize this, there's an exercise we can do which will help us think through this. Right? We all fly, especially when we go to India. Right? These massive jumbo jets. Right? Even the smallest one will be a 747. I think the even smaller than that will be like a 737-600. Long range 737-600. Still there will be 300, 350 people in that, right? Nowadays, all of them have these A380s and all that, right? Such a huge plane. If you think about such a huge plane, right? Who is flying that plane? Right? Small pilot. He's hardly 6 feet tall. You've seen how big those jumbo jets are. Right? I mean, that the wings are 200 feet wide and huge tires. The A380 has, I think, something like 24 or 30 tires. Huge. So many of them. And that small person goes into one small cockpit. He's sitting over there and he's controlling the entire massive plane. Right? Similarly, if any of you have been on a cruise ship, right? You know where the controlling is happening in the cruise ship? Or any ship for that matter? In the upper portion, right? You've seen that? Like there'll be a deck. And usually, the deck will be a little bit hanging out of the, this thing, like almost like you're in the water kind of a thing. They're up there in the top. And one small, tiny person in that such a 700 feet tall, like long ships. So you've seen some of these ships are a mile long. Huge ships. One small person sitting in that control is able to control the entire thing. The Shastra says similarly, there may be a huge whale, but the Atma inside the whale is just, how big is the Atma? Anybody remembers? Yes. The tip of the hair. Wonderful. Very nice. In the Bhagavad Gita, it said, Kesha Agra, the end of the Agra, the end of the hair, 1/10,000. It'll be few microns, in size. Cannot be seen by the human eye. So such a small Atma, the same Atma is there in a whale's body, same Atma is there in an ant's body, same Atma is there in this body also. Right? Now, when you say you have this body, right? So, can you really understand every aspect of this particular body itself? Right? So, Prashant, what did you have for breakfast today, if you don't mind me asking? I know, you made your own chapati, huh? So, now, do you know where that chapati is in your body right now? Somewhere. It's there inside. Right? How many hours ago did you eat? 3 hours back. Right? He remembers taking the chapati, putting it in the mouth, and it went in. After that, we have no idea where exactly it is. We know it is inside somewhere. Is it in the stomach? Is it in the intestine? Is it in the large intestine? Is it in the small intestine? We don't know. Right? We don't understand. In this own body, even though we are supposedly the owners of this body, we are not. We are Kshetragna, we are supposed to be knowers of this. We don't know every aspect of this body. Some aspects we know. Like, if I touch here, oh yeah, there is, okay, you touched here. There's a feeling of sensation. Right? Something pricks you somewhere, oh yeah, I got this. But inside the body, what is happening, we don't even know. Right? So, the body is just a machine in which the Atma is sitting. This is the fundamental understanding of the Gita. Dehino asmin yata dehe. Right? Another verse, Krishna says, Yantra rudani mayaya. Yantra is a machine. Arudaha means to climb, to be inside. So yantra rudani mayaya, maya is creating a machine for you in which you are there. So that is the fundamental knowledge that is being given to us in the Gita, that we are not the body. Right? Here, in order to illustrate. See, because what was happening, Arjuna, in the previous verse we heard, Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are talking like a very learned person. Right? But you are saying all kinds of foolish things. You are lamenting for what that doesn't need to be lamented. Right? Here, so nicely Prabhupada is explaining. He's saying, whom are you worried about? You are worried about Bhishma Deva. Dronacharya. See, these are all such exalted souls, right? Especially Bhishma Deva. Think about it. How much of tapasya is done in his, the word, his name Bhishma. The word name itself means, he has taken a very big vow, right? The vow of brahmacharya he had taken. And so, such an exalted person, so doing so much of austerity, his entire life is a life of sacrifice. So, next life, if he dies now, what do you think his next life is going to be? Right? If anybody knows anything little about the Shastras, will say, he will have a glorious, this thing Prabhupada is telling, he will mostly go back to Godhead. By chance he does not go back also, he will still get a very he will be one more exalted life of some big demigod, something. Because he's such a great personality. Hare, after all, he's elderly now. Bhishma Pitamaha, great grandfather. His little elderly body. Typically we see, right, Mahabharata when they show Bhishma Dev is all grey hair. Right? Grey flowing hair, big grey beard. If he dies now, he'll get a brand new body. So what is there to lament? New body, new energy, new this thing. Prabhupada literally is telling, he'll be rejuvenated. Right? Very nicely Prabhupada is telling over here, they should, So, rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Right? Such a change of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in this life. So they did such fantastic work, so they'll have a wonderful future. So what is there to lament about? Right? So here Krishna is trying to get Arjuna to understand this fundamental difference. We see today in the modern world, right, we have built a huge civilization, very sophisticated life, so much of technology, so much of advancement we have made in science and technology. Right? They recently launched a new telescope, right? And it's called the Webb telescope. And it just recently started beaming back images of the universe. Completely not seen before. Till now, the most sophisticated telescope, which was it? Anybody knows? Before Webb? The Hubble. Right? The Hubble telescope. It was launched into this thing. But Webb, they particularly made it so much more bigger and with much more power. And we can imagine Hubble was so many decades ago. And this is latest technology. And then they launched it far away into the sky, so that it is not affected by all the light that coming from the other planets' reflections and all that. And it is now beaming back images of all this. So we say so much of advancement, we can precisely calculate where it is going to go stand, how it is going to see and all that. And it's beaming back, high precision images back to the world. Right? But what is the use of all of this big advancement in technology? Ultimately, right, every civilization, you go back, 100 years when the Titanic was being built, right? It was the pinnacle of shipbuilding, and ship was the most, powerful means of, the most advanced means of transportation in those days. It's the pinnacle of the technology of those days. All those different, every time in every this thing they will say, we have advanced so much in technology, we have come so close, everybody will be immortal very soon. They said that 200 years ago, they said that 100 years ago, they said that 50 years ago. I keep saying, I remember so well when I was in my high school, everybody was saying this cryogenic freezing was going on. If somebody remembers, it was a big fad. In the 1980s, Many of the important people who died in the 1980s, they're all frozen and kept in California only. They're all kept in tubes, waiting to be thawed. Because in 1980s they said, we have come very close. Anybody who dies now, put them in a freezer. In few years, we'll wake them up and give them whatever missing parts are there, they'll get new life. They're all sitting over there waiting. Paying thousands of dollars they paid at that time, and now also every month there's some maintenance fee they have to pay. All these bodies are kept in sub-zero temperatures, frozen and kept. One day they'll wake up. Right? This is the illusion of modern this thing. See, just because we are able to create some technology doesn't mean that we understand what is the meaning of life. They're two different things. Stephen Hawking was there, such a big scientist, about he's considered one of the most brilliant brains of the world. Right? He recently passed away a few years ago. But where is that? Prabhupada used to ask this question, where is that person? It was a very interesting incident that happened. Many of you would have heard of one of Prabhupada's disciples. His name was Ambarisha Dasa. Anybody knows what his karmi name or legal name was before? Alfred Ford. He's actually the great-grandson of Henry Ford. And this was Prabhupada's disciple. In fact, right now in Mayapur, at the world headquarters of Prabhupada's movement, they are inaugurating this very big temple. Next year's inauguration. A significant portion of the temple's funding was done by Ambarisha Dasa. About 150 crores or something he gave for the building of the temple. So this is when Prabhupada first met him in Detroit in the 1960 late 60s. So somebody brought him into the Prabhupada's office and they said, Prabhupada, this is Henry Ford's great-grandson and he wants to take Diksha from you. Prabhupada was very happy that yes, very nice. Oh, you're Henry Ford's great-grandson. Ambarish Das said, yes, Prabhupada. That Alfred Ford, he said, yes, Prabhupada. This thing. Very nice, very nice. Then he said, where is your great-grandfather now? Very simple question. He just said, where is your great-grandfather now? Because Henry Ford was considered the biggest industrialist of his time. Where is he now? And Alfred Ford said, Prabhupada, I don't know. He must be in some life somewhere. See, Prabhupada wanted to convey this message. You might be such a great personality, you might be this, you might be that. But if you don't understand the fundamental thing that you are the Atma, that just like you have a body, now all of us, they say, as sure as death. If one thing is certain, for all of us in this room, right? I know some people feel bad that I'm saying this, but one thing is certain, we're all going to die one day. Even if you have a plan to freeze yourself, unfortunately, the Shastras say that it is not going to work. The technique is not going to work. Right? As sure as death. So, that doesn't mean that we should be thankful that we've been blessed with a body, we are blessed with some intelligence, some mind, and some facilities in this world. The same body which is temporary, which is actually janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. This body will show us darshanam, like darshan, it will show you. What will it show you? Dukkha. How will it show you dukkha? Because it is subject to janma, mrityu, Jara and Vyadhi. Janma is birth, Mrityu is death, Jara is old age. Vyadhi is diseases. Unfortunately, just like any machine, there is a mean time between failure, they call it MTBF. Anybody who's done operations and all those things? Any industrial engineers? Yes, right? Every machine they break, they'll make something, they'll say, not the whole machine, usually every part in the machine, they'll say, there's a mean time between failure. A battery is made, it'll say, oh, this is 1,000 cycles. After 1,000 cycles, its power will come down and then one day anything is made, mean time between failure. Like that, the Shastras say that this machine is made, the parts in the machine have a shelf life, the mean time between failure. Some parts, which part is going to fail for different people is different. But some part is going to fail. Right? In fact, today we call cancer. Cancer is not like, it's anything from somewhere. Cancer is not like a virus that comes from somewhere else. If you all, anybody from medical field here? Cancer is not like, something, somewhere it is coming. It is your own cells in your body. Because what happens? Cells are being born, dying, born. They go rogue. The DNA replication gets messed up. And now they don't know, they just keep replicating themselves too fast. 2 minutes. Usually what happens? These kind of rogue cells, they are called macrophages, they'll go and eat them up, clean them. In fact, it is said that when you fast, right? Modern science, I'm not talking about some Vedic science. Modern law, few years back, Nobel Prize in Medicine was given to a person who discovered that fasting, is very helpful for these macrophages to go clean up the body. It will reduce your chances of getting cancer. See, we didn't need all this Nobel Prize to understand. Shastras have been telling every Ekadashi you fast. It is good for you. You simply follow, you will elongate your life automatically. Right? So like that, a cell goes rogue. That's called a cancer cell. Some machine breaks, your heart suddenly stops beating. Right? It's such an important organ that it stops beating, you'll get a heart attack. Right? Some muscles in the heart, they stop functioning. 24/7 I'm doing work. I'm going on strike right now. That's it. There's a heart attack. Right? If they're able to give some medicines and revive it and this thing, then you're safe. Some people unfortunately pass away. So we need to understand, now that we know that this is a machine, and we are the Atma inside this machine, then the question comes up, oh, if I'm the Atma, then what should I be doing in this life? What is the goal of life? Why am I in this machine? Is this a happy situation to be in? Right? How do I, okay, you are saying that this is a machine, good, and then you're telling this machine will show me darshanam, dukkha doshanu darshanam. Then if I don't want to see, right, anybody, nowadays many people want to see sad movies, right? It's this thing, because there's an emotion. You see this, the tragedies and kind of a thing. You want to see tragedy movie saying, oh, so sad it is happening to them. But if it happened to you, you don't want to see that. Right? So, if you don't want to see this tragic movie of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, what should I do? How do I get out of this engagement? This fundamental question, when we ask, that is the beginning of human life. The Vedanta Sutra said, Athatho Brahma Jignasa. Athatho Brahma Jignasa. Brahma Jignasa. Jignasa means try to know, have inquisitiveness about Brahman. But Athatho. Anybody knows what the word Athatho means? Not thereafter. Anybody? Now. Now that you have, what now? Now that you have a human body, Do Brahma Jignasa. First Vedanta Sutra. We should understand, what is this now? Now that you have a human body which is capable of doing this question. There are 8,400,000 species, the Shastras say. All these 8,400,000 species, there are only 400,000 species where this question can be asked. So according to the Shastras, the human species is not one species, like we say Homo sapiens sapien, right? We call that one species, but from a Shastric understanding, the species is not based on, like the physical appearance and all that. In the Vedic system, the species is based on the mixing of the three modes. Rajoguna, Sattva-guna and Tamoguna is there, right? There are three colors. You mix those three modes, like the three primary colors you take and you mix it, you find millions of colors. So like that, when you take these three modes, there are millions of species that are formed. Out of those species that have a certain percentage of Sattva-guna minimum, they're all called human species. There are 400,000 human species. And this human species is the only species, the only life where you can ask this question, who am I? Why am I here? What is the goal of life? Where am I going? How can I stop this repeated birth and death? Right? So, here we see that Krishna is answering this fundamental question and is enlightening Arjuna. Arjuna, you are not the body. Just like you were once a small child, right? And then now you are a grown-up man. Then soon you'll also die and you will pass on to another life. So that's why, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Okay, we'll stop here. Anybody has any questions or comments? No questions? Everybody is convinced you are not the body? Yes. So, the Shastras say that the most powerful process of realizing that you are not the body and acting on that realization is the process of chanting Hare Krishna. So, all of you will all chant one round of Hare Krishna together. This is a very powerful process of attaining the Supreme and connecting, linking with the Lord. So before we chant Hare Krishna, we will chant some mantras together. Please repeat after me. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Namaste. What did I do? Nama. I completely forgot. No, where did I stop? Okay. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gauravaktarunda. We'll chant the Hare Krishna mantra together. Please chant with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for chanting together. Still going on, huh? Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. Okay, so what we'll have now is we'll have some announcements about the program, and we'll have an arati, and after the arati, there'll be prasadam. Somebody here from the announcements? You have the list of. Is there a list of sponsors or something? There's no sponsors. Okay. So we'll be having arati now. Are there any people who are coming for the first time to the temple? Please raise your hand. I have a small gift for you. Very nice.